Huh, that's strange.
During our family trip drive, my husband intentionally let out a troubled voice.
Something feels off in the back of the car. Jessica, can you go in and take a look?
I didn't see any abnormalities with the car. But before I could argue, my mother-in-law, who was sitting in the back seat, interjected.
You're his wife. Can't you listen what your husband says? Hurry up and go check the back.
Reluctantly, I got out and went around to the back of the car. Even though I saw it, I couldn't solve any trouble that might arise. However, there was no lie in the car. And then, I'll get out too. My niece Molly said that and got out of the back seat. She's usually quiet, but for some reason, she's attached to me. She was the only source of solace in the family. Well, I guess I'll go check the car then. As I thought that, my niece spoke to my husband, who was in the driver's seat. Daddy, you absolutely shouldn't do that, you know. Hey, housekeeper, can you bring me some tea? I heard my sister-in-law's voice. I sighed and took off my blue light cutting glasses. Ever since I started living with my husband's family, they've referred to me as the housekeeper. My husband Mike and I met through a mutual friend during our university days. He was the type who wasn't around me much. Although he had a somewhat rough side, he was a vibrant and cheerful person, which gave me a good impression. He often talked about how he valued family and went on trips together. That was one of the reasons I found Mike so wonderful. We got married after 3 years of dating. While Mike's income was still low, I was starting to establish myself as a freelance translator. I thought that as long as we continue working together, we could happily navigate our marriage. However, I now realized that this idea was completely wrong.
Shouldn't we live with my parents until we have a child?
When Mike proposed that idea, to be honest, I wanted to refuse. It was because I didn't have a good impression of his parents and sister. Mike did prioritize his family, and they cherished him in return. However, he paid no attention to anyone outside the family. Moreover, his family had a condescending attitude towards me, as if considering me inferior. I still remember the first time I visited his parents' house, where they scrutinized me from head to toe. The only kind one was Molly, my niece, his sister's daughter. His sister had divorced shortly after Molly's birth, and had been living with their parents ever since. She didn't contribute to the household expenses, claiming that raising a child was expensive. Although I wasn't keen on living together, I knew it would be difficult to refuse. I had a sense that marriage was not just a matter between the two of us. Besides, Mike assured me that he would make sure I wouldn't have a bad experience. If my beloved husband said so, I wanted to believe him. But now, I am knocking on my sister-in-law's door, holding a cup of tea. She brushed up her bleached and damaged blonde hair and looked at me with an annoyed expression. Finally, You're the housekeeper, so you should be quick about these things, right? I'm sorry. Her reaction to my apology seemed displeased, and she gave me an annoyed look. What's with that face? I can't afford to spare any time for you with taking care of our child. If you don't have kids and don't have a job, you should at least handle the chores. Honestly, why did she have to say such things to me? I have a proper job from home, and I also wanted children. I felt disheartened as I returned to the kitchen, where Molly was reaching into the fridge. Molly, are you thirsty? All right, I'll get you some juice. Just a second. Molly nodded with a bright smile and hugged me, expressing her joy. Molly is truly adorable. But sadly, my in-laws don't pay any attention to what Molly says. I'm the only one who has proper conversations with Molly. Perhaps because of that, it seemed like Molly liked me as well. Just as I was about to have a little conversation with Molly and continue my work, my mother-in-law raised her voice.
Jessica, go out and do some shopping right away.
Is it something urgent?
We only have 1 pack of toilet paper left.
But I have work.
You don't have work, do you? You're always at home.
Don't argue and go quickly. Reluctantly, I headed to the nearby store. As I hurriedly tried to buy toilet paper and return home, my sister-in-law called me on the phone. Hello, hey. Can you buy some beer on your way back? And also grab some snacks as well. Thanks. Once the purpose of the call was over, she abruptly hung up. I thought myself, why does everything have to be so burdensome? And entered the store again. After finishing my purchases, while I was on my way back, my echo bag tore. A wave of exhaustion hit me. That night, I told Mike about everything that had happened today. Mike rubbed his chin while drinking the beer I bought. I get it. I'll figure something out. You're just saying that, you know. You always say that.
Well, what can I do? I'm tired from work, you know.
After saying that, Mike started playing a game, as if to signify that the conversation was over. It was on one of those days, amidst such daily life, that something happened. While I was taking in the laundry, as instructed by my mother-in-law, I saw Molly playing alone. So I called out to her. What are you doing, Molly? I'm playing with Legos. I'll give this to you, Auntie Jessica. Well, thank you. And then, Molly looked off into the distance for a moment. Then she tugged at my sleeve as I was about to go upstairs. You can't go now. Huh? Why? Molly? Is something wrong? It's not good right now. Let's play Lego together. Following her words, I played with Molly for a while, and then we heard a voice from upstairs.
Hey! There's a bug. Come here. Can't you do something about it?
Ah, no way! Just let the housekeeper handle it.
Jessica is still out shopping.
I can't wait until she comes back. I was surprised to hear my mother-in-law and sister-in-law reluctantly coming out of the room. Molly seemed to be enjoying herself without paying any attention to what was said earlier. After that, more strange things happened. When I followed Molly's instructions, it seemed that I was able to avoid unpleasant situations, or good things happened unexpectedly. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but it kept happening repeatedly. So I began to think that Molly might have some kind of mysterious power. One night, while I was working in my room, I suddenly heard a knock on the door. Wondering what it could be, I opened the door and found my in-laws standing there with smiles on their faces.
Jessica, we're thinking of going on a trip soon.
Oh, really? Are you two going together?
Oh, what are you saying?
It's a family trip.
You're coming too.
My mother-in-law said that and casually patted my shoulder. It seemed that they were planning a family trip with everyone, including me, which caught me off guard because I thought they would ask me to stay behind.
Jessica, if you stay at home all the time, you'll suffocate, won't you? Let's stretch our wings and have some fun together, shall we?
There was something off about my usually unnoticeable father-in-law's smile. But I couldn't imagine that they were planning a trip just to harass me. And the day of the trip arrived. When I opened the door of the minivan, which my sister-in-law said was hers, I was surprised. Where is the child seat for Molly? Oh, we don't have that kind of thing. It's a waste of money, really. My sister-in-law said that and quickly got into the back seat. Molly looked a bit uneasy as she was about to get in. I couldn't bear it anymore, so I took her hand and made an eye contact. Molly, buckle up securely, okay? If anything happens, call me right away, alright? Okay. Thank you, Auntie Jessica. And we set off on our family trip. Mike was driving. I sat in the passenger seat, and the others sat in the back. Molly was sandwiched between my sister-in-law and father-in-law, looking out the window. It was a 3-hour drive from here. Mike was worried about the directions, so I ended up navigating with my phone while looking at the map. Everything was going well for a while, but as soon as we entered the mountains, my phone battery died. Of all days, I had forgotten to bring the portable charger. I told Mike about it.
Oh, well, can't be helped, I guess.
After driving for a while on the mountain road, Mike suddenly stopped the car.
Oh, I hear a strange noise.
Huh? Really?
Yes, I've been noticing it for a while now.
I looked through the rearview mirror and saw everyone, except Molly, nodding. Mike looked at me.
Jessica, can you go and take a look?
Huh? But I don't know anything about cars. Upon hearing that, Mike became irritated and slammed the steering wheel. Just go and check, quickly.
What if an accident happens? Are you ready to take responsibility?
Mike reproached me with an arrogant tone. Unable to retort, I placed my hand on the door, about to get out. In that moment, Molly suddenly started speaking. It's dangerous to go farther in the car. We shouldn't go by car. What? What are you saying? Suddenly. You're such a weird child. If you hate the car so much, then get out too. With a raised eyebrow, my sister-in-law forcibly pushed Molly out of the car. I quickly grabbed Molly's hand and moved to the back of the car. The rustling sound of the trees, swaying in the wind, created an eerie atmosphere. I thought we should quickly look and get back inside the car. As I observed the car, there didn't seem to be anything unusual. Molly, with a worried expression, held my hand tightly while looking around the area near the exhaust pipe. Then we heard the sound of the engine starting. Huh? What? The car started moving, leaving us behind. In disbelief, I stayed on my knees in that spot. We had been left behind in such a place. My phone battery was dead too. I looked into my bag, but there was nothing that seemed useful. Fortunately, I had my wallet with me, but it was of no use in this situation. What should I do? At that moment, everything went pitch black in front of me. Auntie Jessica? Molly's voice snapped me back to reality. That's right. I have to bring Molly back safely. No matter what happens to me, I have to protect this child. I handed Molly a piece of chocolate from my bag and put on the best smile I could. Shall we go home? Molly nodded strongly. We held hands and descended down the mountain path. After a while, Molly pointed to a game trail. This way. But what lay ahead was a dense forest. Entering it and getting lost would be extremely dangerous. However, continuing down the mountain path would take a long time. Fortunately, the sun was still high in the sky. I also worried about Molly's stamina. Perhaps that game trail could be a shortcut. Besides, Molly had protected me many times before. I decided to trust Molly's intuition and chose the game trail. We walked, singing to mask our fear. It seemed like a forest inhabited by creatures, as we caught a glimpse of squirrels and raccoons running by. Gradually, our mood became more enjoyable. And then, at the edge of the forest, we found a bus stop. Molly and I exchanged glances and boarded the bus that arrived just in time. Afterwards, we somehow made it back home. Molly seemed exhausted and fell asleep after drinking some juice. I couldn't stay in this place any longer and started packing my things to leave. Once I finished packing, I checked my phone and saw a flood of notifications. There were numerous attached images and messages from Mike. Upon viewing the images, I saw smoke billowing out from the back of the car. It was clear that the car had broken down. Summarizing Mike's voicemail, it said, Mike apparently didn't have his driver's license with him. So even if the car broke down, he couldn't call for help. What's more, both my parents-in-law and sister-in-law didn't have licenses either. Not only were they unable to fix the car, but they also couldn't drive. However, when the police arrived, Mike panicked and fled the scene. Naturally, he was caught immediately and had to pay a fine. The police gave them a ride to the nearest station, but they had no means of transportation afterward. Going to the destination or returning home became difficult. In other words, the only person they could rely on in this situation was me. What an irresponsible man he is. I could feel my anger welling up inside. And finally, I understood the meaning behind what Molly had said. It's dangerous to go by car. While I was lost in thought, another call came in from Mike.
Oh, finally got through. Jessica, please help me. If you're back home, please come and pick me up with my license.
Well, I don't care. Besides, I just got back and can't move. Molly is also tired and asleep.
Please don't say that. I'm begging you. Come right away.
This is ridiculous. Don't call me anymore. Bye. Without waiting for my husband's response, I hung up the phone and turned off my smartphone. Oh, Auntie Jessica, what's wrong?
Oh, Molly,
I'm sorry for waking you up. Shall we go out together? And so, I took Molly and headed to my parents' house. After discussing with my parents, we decided to hire a lawyer and proceed with the divorce. A few days later, when Mike and the others managed to come back on their own, I informed them about the divorce, and they agreed. It seems they were angry at me for not going to help them. At first, Mike resisted paying alimony, but when I presented evidence of his purchases using my credit card, he quickly changed his tune. It turned out Mike had been buying entertainment items like manga and figurines, thinking I wouldn't notice. The total sum amounted to around $30,000.
Jessica, you regret this.
Oh, really? Just a few days after uttering such words of defiance, Mike and my in-laws came crying to me. And that was only natural. After all, I had been contributing my own earnings to the household expenses at their place. There was no way Mike's income alone could cover their living expenses. I entered my in-laws' house after a long time, ready to have a discussion. Everyone was huddled together, avoiding eye contact with me. The only one who greeted me with a smile was Molly, who had been back at my in-laws' house. It seems you don't have any money.
I'm sorry. I apologize for everything that happened.
What are you talking about? First of all, you have an obligation to pay me alimony. Do you intend to ignore that as well?
Well,
if you can't pay, then there's no choice. I'll have to take things from the house and sell them.
That's a bit...
So, what can you do? Do you have any other suggestions? When I said that, everyone fell silent. I looked at Molly, and she nodded. In that case, please let me adopt Molly. If you agree to that, I will drop the alimony claim.
What? Huh? My in-laws all had surprised expressions on their faces. Molly smiled and said,
Yes, I'll become Auntie Jessica's child.
about half a year ago, Molly had said,
It would be nice if Auntie Jessica were my mommy.
I had always wanted children, and I cherished Molly dearly. That's why I had talked to Molly about the possibility of her becoming my child. Molly immediately agreed to my proposal. And as the truth behind that incident, it turned out to be incredibly absurd and meaningless. It seemed that they had planned to leave me behind in the mountains after pretending to go on a family trip, all in an attempt to make me a more submissive wife. 5 years has passed since then.
Molly, dinner's ready.
Okay, coming.
It smells delicious. I'll get the plates ready.
Mommy, this is so good. Really? It's a recipe one of my clients taught me recently. I was free from the stress and chores of my former in-laws and was making progress in my work. Molly's mysterious power still exists to this day. Sometimes she gives me advice regarding my work. And every time I follow her suggestions, things go well. But even if Molly's power were to disappear in the future, she would still be my beloved daughter. I reach out and gently stroke Molly's head. Hey, Molly, how about going on a trip with Mommy soon?
Huh? A trip?
Yeah, maybe next month or so. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. As long as it's not by car.
You're right. Maybe by plane. Molly and I exchanged smiles.